A woman walks with a bicycle next to a building damaged in the separatist-controlled town of Volnovakha in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, March 15, 2022. Reuters. Alexander Ermoshenko. Evacuees fleeing Ukraine-Russia conflict walk out of the besieged southern port city of Mariupol, Ukraine, March 17. Reuters. Alexander Ermoshenko. Rescuers carry the body of a person who was killed by shelling in Chernihiv, Ukraine, March 17. State Emergency Service of Ukraine via Reuters. Chunks of concrete are seen on a bed in a bedroom in a damaged apartment after an intercepted missile hit a residential building in Kyiv, Ukraine, March 17. Reuters. Thomas Peter. Local residents look for cover as they escape from the town of Irpin, after heavy shelling on the only escape route used by locals, in Irpin, near Kyiv, Ukraine, March 6. Reuters. Carlos Faria. Rescuers work to get a woman out of a residential building that was struck in Kyiv, Ukraine, March 14. State Emergency Service of Ukraine via Reuters. People carry white flags as they cross the border between Bucha and Irpin next to a body lying on the street, in Irpin, Ukraine, March 11. Reuters. Serhiy Nuznenko. A woman with a child evacuates from a residential building damaged by shelling in Kyiv, Ukraine, March 16. State Emergency Service of Ukraine via Reuters. A woman carries her dog during an evacuation in the town of Irpin outside Kyiv, Ukraine, March 13. Reuters. Marco Urica. People wait below a destroyed bridge to cross a river as they flee from advancing Russian troops in the town of Irpin outside Kyiv, Ukraine, March 8. Reuters. Thomas Peter. A firefighter works at a site of a fire in Kharkiv, Ukraine, March 16. Reuters. Alexander Lapshin. A hole in the roof of a tram is seen at a depot in Kharkiv, Ukraine, March 14. Reuters. Alexander Lapshin. A man helps an elderly woman to run for cover after heavy shelling on the only escape route used by locals, in Irpin, near Kyiv, Ukraine, March 6. Reuters. Carlos Faria. Firefighters worked to put out a fire in a residential apartment building after it was hit by shelling in Kyiv, Ukraine, March 15. Reuters. Marco Urica. A woman reacts after she was rescued from a residential apartment building that was hit by shelling as Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues, in Kyiv, Ukraine, March 15. Reuters. Thomas Peter. People and medics help a wounded resident of a house destroyed by shelling in Kyiv, Ukraine, March 14. Reuters. Gleb Garanich. A girl sleeps on the lap of her brother as they wait for their transfer, outside the main train station in Lviv, Ukraine, March 14. Reuters. Kai Pfaffenbach. A woman pushes a trolley with her belongings along a street in the separatist-controlled town of Volnovakha, in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, March 15. Reuters. Alexander Ermoshenko. A woman reacts in front of a residential building in the separatist-controlled town of Volnovakha in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, March 11. Reuters. Alexander Ermoshenko. A woman walks past a destroyed tank in a street damaged in the separatist-controlled town of Volnovakha in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, March 15. Reuters. Alexander Ermoshenko. A view shows a damaged window of a dress shop after shelling in the separatist-controlled city of Donetsk, Ukraine, March 14. Reuters. Stringer. A body lies on the street in the separatist-controlled town of Volnovakha in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, March 15. Reuters Alexander Ermoshenko. Women carry portraits of school teachers Elena Ivanova and Elena Kudryk, who were killed by shelling, during a funeral at a cemetery in the separatist-controlled town of Gorlovka in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, February 28. Reuters Stringer. Smoke and flames rise over during the shelling in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 26. Reuters Glepgaranich. Local residents walk along a street in the separatist-controlled town of Volnovakha in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, March 15. Reuters Alexander Ermoshenko. Residents take shelter in the basement of an apartment building, after Russia launched a massive military operation against Ukraine, in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 27. Jedrzejnowikiaginka wyborcza.pl. A firefighter works inside an apartment building damaged by recent shelling in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 26. Reuters Glepgaranich. People take cover as an air raid siren sounds near an apartment building damaged by recent shelling in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 26. Reuters Glepgaranich. A child sits on a swing in front of a damaged residential building in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 25. Reuters Umatbektis. A local resident applies sticky tape to their window, at the site of night fighting with Russian troops, in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 26. Reuters Valentin Ogirenko. A woman with a dog evacuates from a residential building damaged by shelling in Kyiv, Ukraine, March 16. State Emergency Service of Ukraine via Reuters. A man removes debris outside a residential building damaged by shelling in the separatist-controlled town of Makiyevka outside Donetsk, Ukraine, March 16. Reuters Alexander Ermoshenko. Rescuers help a local resident after shelling in the town of Starobilsk in the Luhansk region, Ukraine, February 25. Ukrainian State Emergency Service via Reuters. A local resident rides a bicycle past a building in the separatist-controlled town of Volnovakha in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, March 15. Reuters Alexander Ermoshenko. A fragment of a missile is seen in the street after shelling in the separatist-controlled city of Donetsk, Ukraine, March 14. Reuters Stringer. A local resident rides a bicycle past a charred armored vehicle in the separatist-controlled town of Volnovakha in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, March 15. Reuters Alexander Ermoshenko. View shows the interior of a damaged kindergarten in Kharkiv, Ukraine, March 14. Reuters Alexander Lapshin. A local resident reacts as a house is on fire after heavy shelling on the only escape route used by locals to leave the town of Irpin, 24 kilometers from Kyiv, Ukraine, March 6. Reuters Carlos Faria. A woman stands outside a local hospital in the separatist-controlled town of Volnovakha in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, March 12. Reuters Alexander Ermoshenko. A toy is seen inside a damaged residential building in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 25. Reuters Umatbektis. A woman walks into a room in a damaged residential building in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 25. Reuters Umatbektis. A view shows an apartment building damaged by recent shelling in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 26, 2022. Reuters Glepgaranich. People talk next to a car, which locals said was burned during recent shelling, in the separatist-controlled city of Donetsk, Ukraine, February 28. Reuters Alexander Ermoshenko. destroy buildings after shelling in the town of Starobilsk in the Luhansk region, Ukraine, February 25. Ukrainian State Emergency Service via Reuters. People gather in an air raid shelter in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 25. Reuters via Vyacheslav Ratinsky. An armed local resident carries a cat in a carrier and a fish in an aquarium, which he took out of an apartment building damaged by recent shelling in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 26. Reuters. Mikhail Polinchak. The wreckage of an unidentified aircraft that crashed into a house in a residential area in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 25. Reuters. Umit. An external view shows Hotel Ukraine destroyed during an airstrike in central Chernihiv, Ukraine, March 12. Reuters. Oleg Holovatenko. A person walks around the wreckage of an unidentified aircraft that crashed into a house in a residential area in Kyiv, February 25. Reuters. Umit. People take shelter in a subway station in Kyiv, February 24. Reuters. Vyacheslav Ratinsky. A damaged residential building in Kyiv, Ukraine, February 25. Reuters. Umit. A local resident sits in a car as they pack to leave the city, in Mariupol, February 24. Reuters. Carlos Faria. A girl walks past an apartment building, which locals said was damaged by recent shelling, in the separatist-controlled town of Yazinovata in the Donetsk region, Ukraine, February 24. Reuters. Alexander Ermoshenko.